I never dreamed of marrying a man who never spoke. Not as a child, not as a teenager, not even when life taught me how cruel and unpredictable the world could be. And yet, on a cold autumn afternoon, I stood inside one of the most luxurious wedding halls in the city, holding the hand of a man whose silence was more famous than his fortune. They called him the mute millionaire. Ethan Hale. Everyone knew his name. His companies dominated headlines. His donations built hospitals, funded scholarships, saved lives. But his voice, no one had heard it in years. Some said he was born mute. Some said an accident took his speech. Others whispered darker stories, betrayal, threats. Ethan never denied any of it. He simply stayed silent. And somehow, that silence made him more powerful. I, on the other hand, was invisible. No wealthy parents. No influential friends. No dramatic backstory worth gossiping about. I worked 2 jobs, one during the day, one at night, barely keeping up with rent and bills. My dreams had shrunk over the years. I no longer wished for happiness, only stability. That was when Ethan entered my life. Not with romance. Not with poetry. Not even with conversation. He sent a message through his assistant. He wishes to meet you. I thought it was a joke. Why would a man like him want to meet someone like me? But curiosity and desperation pushed me forward. Our first meeting was strange. He sat across from me in a quiet restaurant, perfectly composed, his eyes sharp but unreadable. He listened carefully as I spoke, nodding occasionally, writing notes on a small tablet. When I finished, he slid the screen toward me. I value honesty. You didn't pretend to be more than you are. I didn't know how to respond. Another note appeared. I am looking for a wife, just like that. No compliments. No promises. No emotions. I should have walked away, but instead, I asked the only honest question I could think of. Why me? He paused, then wrote, because you didn't look at me like a prize. Weeks passed, meetings continued, always polite, always calm, always silent. Until one evening, another message appeared on the screen. Will you marry me? No ring yet, no declaration of love. Just a question that could change my life. I said yes, and that is how I became the woman people whispered about, the one who married the mute millionaire. The wedding day arrived faster than I expected. Hall was massive, glass walls, golden lights, fresh flowers imported from another country. Guests filled the room, dressed in elegance and power. Every smile hid curiosity. Who was I? Why did he choose me? What was wrong with him? I could feel their eyes crawling over me. Ethan stood beside me, calm as ever. His hand was steady. His face revealed nothing. The officiant spoke. When it was time for vows, I spoke mine with a trembling voice. When it was his turn, the room held its breath. Ethan didn't speak. He simply nodded. The crowd murmured softly, pretending not to stare. Cameras flashed. Applause followed. Just like that, we were married. At the reception, music played and laughter echoed. But something felt heavy inside me. Ethan stayed close, guiding me gently, shielding me from too many questions. Then, without explanation, he leaned slightly toward me and gestured toward the stairs. We left the crowd behind. The higher we climbed, the quieter it became, until finally, we entered a private suite. The door closed. Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, the dangerous kind. I stood near the door, unsure of what to do, my heart pounding. This was the first moment we were truly alone, as husband and wife. I turned toward him. Before I could speak, he did. No one can hear us now. The words were clear, controlled, deep. I felt my breath leave my body. I stared at him, frozen, my mind struggling to process what I had just heard. You spoke, I whispered. He looked directly into my eyes. Yes, my hands trembled. But everyone said, I know what everyone believes. He interrupted calmly. I took a step back. You're not mute. He shook his head. I never was. The room felt smaller. My heart raced. Then why? I asked. Why lie to the world? He walked past me, loosening his tie, moving with a confidence that suddenly felt terrifying, because silence kept me alive. I swallowed hard. He turned back to me. And now that you're my wife, he said, you need to know the truth. My instincts screamed danger, but I didn't move. He spoke slowly, carefully, as if each word had weight. There are people who would kill me if they knew what I know. My blood ran cold. Years ago, I trusted the wrong people, partners, friends, family. His jaw tightened. They tried to erase me. I couldn't breathe. So I disappeared. Without disappearing, he met my gaze. I became the man no one listens to. The silence returned heavier than before. Then he added quietly, and now, you're part of that silence. I realized something in that moment. This marriage wasn't just a union, it was a shield. And I was standing in the center of a war I never agreed to fight. Yet somehow, I didn't run. I didn't speak for a long time after he told me the truth. The room felt colder. Even though the lights were warm and the air was still, the man standing in front of me was no longer the quiet, harmless figure the world believed him to be. He was controlled, calculated, dangerous in the calmest way possible. You should be afraid, Ethan said quietly, almost gently. Fear means you understand the situation. I finally found my voice. Then why marry me? I asked. Why drag an ordinary woman into something like this? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he sat down across from me, resting his elbows on his knees, his eyes never leaving my face. Because ordinary people are invisible, he said, and invisibility is the strongest protection. That sentence stayed with me. I wanted to feel used. I wanted to feel angry, but what I felt instead was something worse: clarity. I wasn't special. I was safe. And somehow, that hurt more than any lie. He explained everything slowly, carefully, as if he had rehearsed this conversation many times. Years ago, his silence had begun as a strategy. Speaking meant attention. Attention meant vulnerability. And vulnerability had almost cost him his life. So he erased his voice from the world. People underestimated him, mocked him, pitied him. And while they did, he rebuilt his empire quietly. You were never supposed to fall into this, he said, but once I chose you, there was no turning back. I asked the question that had been burning inside me. Do you care about me at all? For the first time, his expression cracked. Yes, he said, and that's what scares me. That night, I didn't sleep. Every sound felt louder, every shadow felt suspicious. I replayed his words again and again. By morning, I realized something important. If I was going to survive this marriage, I had to stop being weak. The next weeks were harder than I imagined. In public, Ethan returned to silence. Not a single word, not a mistake, not even when people spoke about him as if he weren't there. In private, he became someone else. He taught me how to observe people's behavior, how to notice inconsistencies, how to recognize fear behind smiles. People reveal their intentions when they think you aren't listening. He told me, staff members tested me. Some were kind, some were cold, some watched me a little too closely. I learned to stay calm, learned not to react. And slowly, I learned why Ethan survived while others did. And single quotes t. One evening, while he was away at a board meeting, I received an anonymous message on my phone. You don't belong here. No name, no number. Just a warning. My hands shook, but I didn't respond. Instead, I remembered Ethan's words. Fear makes you loud, survival makes you quiet. Later that night, I showed him the message. He didn't look surprised. They've noticed you, he said. Who? I asked. Our enemies. The word echoed in my head. Enemies. Not rivals. Not competitors. Enemies. They won't attack you directly, he continued. They'll test you, push you, try to see if you break. I swallowed. And if I do? He looked at me, serious and unflinching. Then they'll come for both of us. That night, I made a decision. I would not break. The real test came sooner than expected. A charity dinner, high-profile guests, media everywhere. I stood beside Ethan, smiling politely, while people whispered, just out of earshot, she looks nervous. She won't last. He made a mistake. One woman leaned close to me and whispered sweetly, it must be hard, being married to someone who can't talk. I smiled back. It teaches you how to listen, I replied calmly. Her smile faded. Ethan noticed. Later that evening, someone spilled wine on my dress accidentally. Of course. Another test. I didn't react. I excused myself with grace. From across the room, Ethan watched me carefully. When we returned home, he spoke. You handled that well. It felt strange being evaluated by my own husband. But I understood. Now, this wasn't a marriage built on romance. It was built on resilience. Then came the night. Everything nearly collapsed. I woke up to a sound that didn't belong. A soft creak. My heart stopped. Ethan was away on a short trip. I was alone in the house. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I remembered every lesson. Slowly, quietly, I slipped out of bed and hid. Footsteps echoed. Someone was inside the house. Minutes passed like hours. I waited, listened, calculated. At the perfect moment, I triggered the silent alarm and stayed hidden. Security arrived within minutes. The intruder was caught. No confrontation, no chaos, just precision. When Ethan returned and heard what happened, he closed his eyes briefly, relief flickering across his face. "You didn't panic," he said. "No," I replied. "I learned." For the first time, he looked at me not as a shield, but as a partner. Still, his voice turned serious. This was only the beginning. I felt it then. The calm before something much bigger, much darker, and deep down, I knew soon Ethan's silence would no longer protect us. After the break-in, nothing felt normal anymore. The house was the same, the walls were the same, the people were the same. But I wasn't. I had crossed a line that night, the invisible one between fear and awareness. Once you see how close danger can come, you never fully relax again. Ethan became quieter in public than ever. His silence felt heavier now, intentional, protective, strategic. But in private, he began preparing me, not gently, not slowly. He showed me files, names, dates, numbers, conversations, recorded years ago. "These are the people who want me silent," he said, "and these are the people who pretend to protect me." My stomach twisted as I recognized faces: men who shook his hand in public, women who smiled beside him at charity events. "They sit at our table," I whispered. "Yes," he replied. "That's why I survived. I never forgot who watched me smile while planning my funeral." I realized then that Ethan hadn't just hidden his voice, he had hidden his rage. One night, while scrolling through social media, I saw it, a headline: "Questions rise about the mute millionaire's marriage." The article didn't accuse me directly, but it planted doubts. Was the marriage staged? Was I being paid? Was Ethan being manipulated? Comments were cruel. "She's a gold digger. She'll take everything and disappear. He can't even speak for himself." I wanted to scream. Instead, I closed my phone. Ethan noticed my hand shaking. "This is phase 2, he said calmly. "Phase 2 of what?" I asked. "The attack." He explained that public pressure was the easiest weapon. Make people question you, isolate you, push you into a mistake. "They want me to speak," he said. "They're tired of waiting." I looked at him. "What happens when you do?" He met my gaze. "Everything burns." Days later, I received an invitation. A high-profile charity gala, one Ethan never missed. But this time, something was different. "They're forcing the stage," Ethan said. "They've arranged it, so I must address the crowd." I felt cold. "And if you don't, they'll expose false evidence, ruin everything I built." I finally understood. Silence had protected him, but now, silence was becoming a weapon against him. That night, I asked the question I had been avoiding. "Why didn't you disappear completely?" I asked. "Why stay in the spotlight at all?" He paused. "Because running doesn't end wars," he said. "It only delays them." The night of the gala arrived. The venue was enormous: glass ceilings, flashing cameras, the kind of place where secrets hide behind elegance. I could feel it in the air. Something was about to break. As we walked in, conversation stopped. Eyes followed us. Ethan squeezed my hand slightly. "They're watching your reaction," he murmured. "Not mine." On stage, speakers praised his generosity, his success, his resilience. Then came the moment. The host turned toward Ethan and smiled. "Would you like to say a few words?" The room held its breath. Cameras zoomed in. This was it. I looked at Ethan. And for the first time since our wedding night, I saw hesitation, not fear. Conflict. He was deciding whether to protect me or end this forever. He stood. The microphone waited. The room leaned forward. Seconds felt endless. And then he stepped back. He didn't speak. Gasps filled the room. The host looked confused. The audience uncomfortable. The message was clear. The war wasn't over. Back home that night, everything exploded. Ethan's assistant arrived, pale, shaking. "They leaked it," he said. "The fake evidence, accounts are being frozen. Media is turning." Ethan closed his eyes. "They've cornered us." I felt something rise inside me. Anger, not fear, not confusion. Anger. Quotes. "For years, you stayed silent to survive," I said. "But now your silence is hurting innocent people." He looked at me sharply. "You think I don't know that? Then stop protecting a lie," I said quietly, "and start protecting the truth." The room went silent. He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "They'll come after you," he warned. They already have, I replied. That was the moment everything changed. He nodded slowly. Then, it's time. The next morning, Ethan spoke publicly for the first time in years, not at a gala. Not in front of cameras, but in a controlled broadcast with evidence prepared, lawyers ready, names documented. I stood beside him. When the camera light turned red, he took a breath and spoke. I was never mute, he said calmly. I was silenced. The truth poured out. Betrayals, threats, assassination attempts, corruption at the highest level. The world stopped listening and started watching. By the time the broadcast ended, nothing was the same. Phones rang endlessly. Stocks crashed. Resignations followed. But as powerful as that moment was, we both knew something. The final reaction hadn't come yet, because exposing the truth doesn't end a war. It only forces the enemy to show their real face, and that face was coming soon. After Ethan spoke, the world reacted faster than I ever imagined. News channels replayed his words again and again. Headlines screamed the truth he had hidden for years. Powerful names were exposed. Some denied it. Some disappeared overnight. Threats followed. Not loud ones, quiet ones. Ethan and I moved to a secure location. For the first time since our wedding, he didn't pretend to be silent anymore. Yet strangely, he spoke less. The danger hadn't vanished, it had shifted. One evening, as we sat together watching the city lights from a distance, I asked him a question that had been sitting in my heart since the beginning. Was I ever just a shield to you? He didn't answer immediately. Then, he said softly, at first, yes. My chest tightened. But shields can break, he continued, and you didn't. He turned to me. You became my courage. Weeks later, arrests were made. Investigations went public. The people who believed silence meant weakness were finally exposed by their own noise. Life didn't return to normal. It became something better. Honest. One night, when everything was finally quiet, Ethan reached for my hand. I stayed silent because I was afraid of losing everything, he said. But silence almost made me lose myself. I looked at him and realized the truth. I didn't marry a mute millionaire. I married a man who taught me that strength isn't about speaking all the time. It's about knowing when to speak, and sometimes the most powerful voice in the room is the one that waited for the right moment.